And thank you to those who are joining us on Facebook. And I don't know where you're joining, so I'll just say that I'm Eric Molendyk, the National Coordinator of Tetra. I am coming to you from Vancouver, so it's just in the afternoon where I am, just past 12. And my guest today, Sylvia Balikos, is the longtime, she's been involved with Tetra. We're going to get into how she has been a part of Tetra, and she's coming to us from Hamilton, so it's later in the afternoon there. But thank you, Sylvia, for joining me, and a happy Friday to you.
Thanks for the invitation, Eric.
Well, during this time, and of course, for those who don't know, as you might imagine, during COVID, we have been doing some virtual content and really trying to share everybody's stories through our platform here on ConnecTogether. And I can't think of a better person or a better family that has a story to tell than the Balikos. So a little bit about you. I first got to know you for the longest time. We just spoke over the phone, and I first got to know you and your brother in early 2001. And so why don't we, because for those who know you, your passion comes through in spades, as it were, in just tons of energy for Tetra. But before you got involved with Tetra, you have quite a background. When I first met you, you were in real estate and you've done other jobs. So just tell us a little bit. We're going to get into Tetra at length, but just tell us a little bit about your background, Sylvia, which is quite diverse.
Wow. Okay. Where do I start? Well, I guess after I graduated, I taught German at McMaster for a couple of years, and that was fun. And then I moved on to CN Rail, where I was a brakeman, and then a conductor, and then a locomotive engineer, and then I went into management and became a safety officer for Ontario. So I took care of 29 safety committees, and also attended any accidents that happened on the railway. And after that, they wanted to put me out to Winnipeg, sorry Winnipeg, but I didn't want to move there. I just purchased a house with my parents and had moved in for 1 week, so I actually quit and went into real estate, and I was in real estate for 20 years. And while I was doing that, my brother asked me, because I'm a sewer, he asked me to help him out with some Tetra projects. And that's how I came to Tetra as a volunteer, a sewing volunteer.
Now, when you say your brother is Ron, who was going to join us today, but he had a medical appointment that he had to go to. And Ron himself has a spinal cord injury, and he was the coordinator of Tetra at the time, because when I started, Ron was the coordinator, and due to health reasons, like you and him, I would say for about a year, we're kind of working more and more together. And I remember him saying to me, my sister's going to take over, and of course at that time, Pat Tweedy was the national coordinator, and you were having conversations with her. But one thing I always knew was your passion for Tetra, and of course your brother really was the coordinator before you. And on his behalf, as he couldn't join us today, can you talk about Ron's time with Tetra and his role with Tetra as it stands today?
Sure. Ron, I'm not sure exactly what year he started in, but he did start around when Glenn Barnes did. He was a chapter coordinator and really brought the Hamilton chapter to where it is today. He has a lot of connections in the community with Spinal Cord Injury Ontario, the MS Society. He knows a lot of people. And he also sat on the advisory committee in the city of Burlington. So Ron has a vast base of contacts. And through that, he really built up the chapter. I'm really glad because he did all the hard work. When I took over, he took a back seat. I gave him a little title called project manager because he was really good at that. And it took up a lot of time, but he was really good at it. And he's still doing it today. With my sister now, as I got this regional position, my sister has taken over the chapter, and the two of them work well together as well. to keep the chapter in Hamilton, Halton, and Burlington going. So they put out about 35 projects a year, if not more, and they have a lot of really, really long-term volunteers. And so the relationships that they've built are standing true to today.
Well, that's one of the things I know about Ron is he's a real people person. As we said, he himself has a spinal cord injury, and Ron is always he wants everybody with a challenge to be able to access Tetra. I know we've had calls together, and he'll talk about changing the website so it's easier to read, or different verbal cues for visually impaired. So I just really want to emphasize to those who are watching or listening today is when you go to the Hamilton chapter, you have somebody in Ron who has lived with a disability for many years and really works hard to keep his own independence and wants that for all the clients. And he is always focusing on ways that we can make projects or helping to connect, or easier way to read the website, or he's helped us brainstorm about different language to use and putting a more positive spin on things. And I am sorry that your brother couldn't join us today, but definitely I hope he knows, and I want to share with everybody else the impact and the passion that he's given to Tetra and those with disabilities in the community, because it is very near and dear to him.
Definitely. And our family would not be involved if it was not for him.
Yes.
Honestly, right?
And so that's a good thing to touch on. I did want to talk about your family, because when I think of you, and I really, when we were going to do this interview, I thought in my head, if I was to think of Tetra's family, I would think of the Balikos, because Ron, he was the coordinator. Again, he's doing the outreach and the presentations. He's a great speaker, and he helps motivate people. But for those who know about anything about Tetra, of course, it's client driven. Somebody gets to tell us being Tetra, what they need, and they need somebody to make a device that's customized and not necessarily commercially available. And your father did that for years. He served as one of the engineers. So talk about your father's skill set and how he got involved with Tetra. I know it was because of Ron he got introduced, but over the years he took on a number of projects.
Definitely, definitely. Well, it started actually probably in Ron's home. My dad is a master carpenter, so he built Ron a couple of things in his house so that he would be more independent. And because of that, Ron saw that he could use the skills of my father to help other people. So my father has done many door thresholds. He's done a lot of transfer lifts that people use. He's done ramps. Trying to think of some unique ones. He did some projects for the general hospital for rehab so that people could learn how to close buttons again and open a door, etc. So he's done a lot of wood projects for people in this area, and he's still continuing today, even though he's 85. He has slowed down. He's not taking on the large projects, but anything small that he can handle in his little workshop there alone, he will take on. So Dad's still taking on projects today.
And yeah, again, when I explain to Tetra, I always say it doesn't have to be, we might not be able to help make you fly, but if you can use your stove easier, if you can get into your home easier, I always say, to me, there is no small projects. Some of the volunteers might say, like your dad might say, oh, Sylvia, this was easy to do, but you can't measure the impact that it can have on somebody's life. And definitely when I think of Tetra, I think of volunteers giving of their time and their skills, like your dad at 85 in a workshop, making something that could make a difference. And as you said about your brother, like not only does he, when you talk to Ron, not only does he promote Tetra, but he's benefited from the devices himself.
Exactly.
So if you ever hear from Tetra from his perspective, he can tell you, and you've seen firsthand the impact that Tetra has had, easier ways to transfer for mobility. And that's great that your dad, because I know you said he wasn't taking on as many projects, but at 85 to still be creating and helping, that's a wonderful story. And then, of course, as Sylvia will tell anybody, a lot of what you do is promoting Tetra. And if we want to make devices, people need to know about us. And you have another helping hand with that in your mother, don't you?
Definitely.
I had the pleasure of meeting your mom at our national conference. And if you want to talk about someone with passion who wants to connect, who wants to share joy and positive stories, that's your mom's specialty. So talk about how she helps the chapter when you're out at an event representing Tetra.
Yeah, well, actually, it happened by mistake as well. Ron was scheduled to go to a resource fair a number of years ago, and due to a medical reason, he couldn't attend. So I had gone out, and it's always nice to have a couple of people at the Tetra booth so that you can talk to people and you can take a bathroom break and there's still somebody there. So I said to my mom, come with. And she's a people person, so it was a great fit. She's very good with people. She understands people with disabilities through my brother's and her experience with my brother's accident. So she has a lot of compassion. She has a lot of understanding, and she can really bring out the best in someone, because people sometimes with a disability don't have a voice and they tend to be shy, but she'll just walk up to them and she'll say, have you heard about Tetra? And she will get them a brochure, then she'll bring them over to the booth, and then we'll have a really good discussion, and by the end of it we'll probably have an RFA, a request for assistance, a project from it, and then they'll pull other people over to the booth. So it's really really great what she does.
Well, that's important, as you said. Like, if you're new to the world of mobility challenges or having a disability, you're just kind of trying to figure things out yourself, and maybe you haven't discovered your voice. And just talk a little bit about, because sometimes it's really hard for people to even know what they need. And kind of your technique that I've seen in action is just to have a conversation.
Correct.
And what you and I try to pass along to people is think about your daily life and what's a challenge for you, something you'd like to do, and maybe Tetra could help out. And I definitely have seen your mom do that. So if anybody's listening and saying, how can Tetra help me? Well, is there an easier way you want to get into bed or turn on your stereo or get out of your apartment or be able to access your keys or your wallet or, turn on Netflix or whatever? That may be a project that Tetra can do. And you have talked about the loyalty of your volunteers. And I mean, that's the thing. These requests come in, and I'll often say to myself, how can this be solved? But talk a little bit about the ingenuity. I know you have some exceptional volunteers. Talk about some of the problem solving that you have seen from your volunteer group.
Yeah, a lot of them have a really great ability to come up with a very simple solution at a very inexpensive cost. And I have to say, I have to give them credit for that, because we're working on, for instance, a beach chair right now, which I think the cheapest one you can use, an accessible beach chair for the beach to get into the water, is around $3,000 US. So my engineer, I think he priced it out originally at $1,500. I think he has it now below $1,000. So he keeps, going at it till he gets it as inexpensive as he possibly can. And I can say that for most of my volunteers. They have shops, workshops, and they have pieces of wood and metal laying around, and they use these items to create the most coolest things. It's unbelievable for very little money, and it's just to watch them work and talk to each other when we have a meeting is just incredible. I just stay out of it and just listen because I just love listening to them.
Yeah, and I mean, as you said, they make cost-effective devices, but the quality is exceptional. They have great pride in their work. A lot of the volunteers are either in the engineering field or retired. So you are going to get something that is high quality made from a Tetra volunteer, or certainly of one in the Hamilton, Burlington area. And a lot of the volunteers will always tell me their greatest reward is to see a smile on a client's face.
Definitely.
And
There's no other reward to have. And I just think of Jim. He's down in St. Catharines, and I call him our crib specialist. He's made so many cribs. He just made one and delivered it last week. And even with social distancing, you know, leaving it on the driveway or having them come pick it up, the smile on their face to see that they receive something that they can actually use and make, you know, make their life easier. They remedy a barrier in their life, and now they can do this on their own. It's just amazing to see.
yes, and you know, one of your volunteers, Jim Rennie, he won the Tetra Lifetime Achievement Award that is given to those as voted on by other volunteers or Tetra staff, and that's just from his commitment of the devices that he has made. Another example that always sticks out to me, and this is an example of how a device can help many, is you have great relationships, Tetra does, with sports clubs and community groups. And I know you guys also specialize in making bocce holders, which allow many to play together.
Definitely.
Can you describe a little bit, because probably when people think of the game bocce, you think of older people playing and throwing heavier balls. Talk about kind of the Tetra bocce, or what a bocce shoot can mean to somebody.
Yeah, definitely. We have a team down in St. Catharines. They requested a bocce ball launcher for their children and teens. They have tournaments. A couple of our volunteers have built manual ones where the child can actually open the gate and release the ball themselves. These bocce ball launchers can be raised, they can be lowered, they can be turned so they can aim, it's accurate. And also for those children that can't manually open the gate, a wooden gate with their hand or their feet, we have another volunteer who's in electronics in Oakville, and he built the switches so that the child can use any part of their body to flip the switch and open the gate and release the ball for their turn. So we've made combination, and I think we've made probably 15 of them already. We've even repaired some of them. We've made some for camps up north. It's a really good game for children as well. So it's not just for adults, and they have a great time.
And one of the things I wanted to emphasize is, you know, Tetra makes the device, and if funding is an issue, you know, as a society, we'll cover it. We are a nonprofit. So as Sylvia already said, the main focus of Tetra is to create a smile and help somebody have an experience. So if you're on, you know, if finances are an issue, or if income is limited, which many of us are dealing with, you know, still reach out to Tetra, because as Sylvia could tell you, some of the greatest gifts you could give us is if the device is working for you, tell others about it. You know, share your positive comments. And so just for those who are listening, correct Sylvia, if money's an issue, we could still help them come up with something that either the cost will be covered or something that works.
Definitely. And we've done a lot of recycling of projects, which is really a cool phase we've gotten into the last couple of years, especially with cribs. They've been donated back and recycled to other chapters here in the province. The best one that I like is Rowan's walker. We made a really tough walker for outdoors for his cottage. And when he was done with it, and what I mean was, he actually got enough strength in his legs to use crutches, so he no longer needs the walker. We took it back, the volunteers sprayed it pink, made some adjustments for the next child, and off it went to the next child. So you know, and at no cost, zero. So we
Yeah.
do a lot of that as well.
And I know I just wanted to touch on, because I know you talked about the cribs earlier. That's another example of if a family no longer needs a crib, and if you've had a Tetra device created, don't throw it out. Contact Sylvia, and you know the crib could maybe help another family, or as you talked about with the rocker, it could help another family. So
Definitely.
okay, and so you've kind of hinted at. So now I really want to talk a little bit. We've talked about your family members, and I do want to talk a little about your sister as well. But just to make sure everybody knows currently kind of your role with Tetra. So you've explained Ron was the coordinator. He needed to step back. His passion was still there, but the day-to-day. So you decided to take that on. So you were the chapter coordinator for Hamilton, Halton, and it covered Burlington. And through your efforts and your brother's efforts, you have this core of volunteers. You're averaging around 35 to 40 completed projects and other requests. And you did a great job. You always handed in the most thorough reports. You were always comfortable presenting. And then as you're going along being the coordinator, the next thing that happened is they said, Sylvia's great at speaking and she's great at putting things into words. So then you started helping out with fundraising.
Definitely, yes. I was asked if that would be something I would be interested in, and I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And it's been 8 years, and I write grants for a lot of the organizations here in Ontario, and it's worked out pretty well. So that's something I'm still doing.
Yeah, so and definitely we want to give a thank you to all of our supporters that enable our, that cover the cost to make devices, enable our volunteers to do what they do at low cost. Because again, our volunteers are giving up their time and their skills. So on top of that exceptional gift, we don't want them to be out of pocket. So our funders help cover those costs. And just like you've maintained the relationships with clients and volunteers, you also have done that with funders. And I just wanted to give you full kudos. You have family foundations and community groups that keep donating. And just while we're on this subject of donating, during this time of COVID, they say that challenges can bring out the best of people. And during this time of COVID, you were at the forefront, you and Glenn Barnes, to help fundraise and garner support for people in your community. Talk a little bit about that, how you've seen the community come together and what we call your peer-to-peer fundraising.
Okay, well, Glenn Barnes has been with Tetra for many, many years, and he's taken a role in fundraising as well. And we saw a need for a couple of things here in Ontario that came through COVID to our attention right away. One of them was personal protective equipment, especially for staff coming into people's private homes. They weren't wearing any at the beginning. I don't know if it wasn't available or it wasn't mandated. So it really struck home with Glenn, as Glenn also has a disability. And so he right away started with a peer-to-peer fundraising on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And he raised quite a bit of cash. And more importantly, he raised about $11,000 in personal protective equipment from various companies in Ontario, and he's distributed it to many people in dire need. So that's one of the things he did. And with the cash, we have sent out food gift cards to people, because people don't realize that a disability pension is not a lot of money every month. And people have allocated probably every dime and penny to just existing, paying their bills, paying their rent, getting food. But during COVID, many new things have come up, like delivery charges, trying to source a new place for medical things that you need. And so these dollars didn't stretch far enough. So we thought we would help them out with a food gift card. And that's what we did with Glenn's Critical Relief Fund. We still have a bit to distribute. We're just reconciling the account, and we should be sending some more out here shortly in August to help those people in Ontario with disabilities have a little bit of financial relief. Also, I've done some fundraising through the Emergency Community Support Fund through the government, which is in conjunction with various cities across Ontario, and we've raised quite a bit of money for that distribution. So on that level as well, we've been sending out food gift cards to Tetra clients as well.
So it's just a great example of, you know, the support or the community. And that leads into the next thing I wanted to say, is because you were the chapter coordinator, you've been fundraising for 8 years, and you've been doing such great work. I will always say, I can't do it alone. We've always talked about our volunteers are the backbone of what we do of making the devices, but Tetra is a national organization. And in Ontario, we have 9 different chapters. And what makes Tetra Tetra is that community connection, that human connection. And you're almost in the 1-year anniversary. It was in August that you took on the role that you are currently in. So if you think of the Hamilton chapter and you don't see Sylvia's name as the coordinator, that is because you are the regional coordinator and you oversee and encourage and support, and you're helping Tetra's growth throughout Ontario. So, and it's been a great help to me because, again, it's always easier if you can talk to somebody within your own city, your own time zone. So talk about some of our coordinators who are working in their areas and helping you spread the word or create successes for Tetra throughout the central region.
Well, the regional coordinator position is something that I've asked head office for quite a number of years, just because I saw the frustration that other chapter coordinators were having, seeing that the Hamilton chapter was doing so well, and they thought that it was some sort of magic. And I said to them, no, it's just the way you set things up, the way you go about talking to people. So I thought a regional coordinator position would be good, just to bring everybody up to the same level. And so the last year has been amazing, even through this pandemic. The chapter coordinators like Dave in Windsor, that gentleman also has a disability, but the work that he does in his community, he doesn't even note it on any of the reports. So I'm trying to get him to do more report writing. So we got him actually a new volunteer. So we've boosted his volunteers by 3 so far. And he is doing a lot of projects. He even takes on cases that, you know, aren't sort of Tetra related, but he helps anybody out with a disability. So Dave has a huge heart down there, and he's our computer whiz for Ontario. So
I was going to say, he's very technically minded.
Yes.
And if you ever want to know how you can make Google homework for you,
Yeah,
and help you have independence, talk to Dave Harshaw, because he will gladly, if, as you said, if he's anywhere near you, he'll install it for you, but he's always a great guy to talk to.
Yeah, he's excellent. And he actually just rebuilt a laptop for our Peel chapter coordinator whose computer just died. So he's excellent that way. Then we have Violet in London, and Violet's been with us for, I guess, a couple of years now. And she just completed a project with her volunteer. This is a really great story. Personal support worker contacted me on Facebook, said she had a client that had to wait until someone showed up into his home to drink. And so Violet went like the same week out to the client, of course, social distancing and all the things that we have to do for COVID. They put a drinking system together on his electric wheelchair, and they put a drinking system so he can drink at night when he's in bed, so he's no longer dependent on anyone to drink. He was so excited that he did a video. He wants to be a Facebook video man now, and his peer support worker got him a computer from a church, and now he's signed up for Netclay. And for the first time in his life, I think he's in his 30s, for the first time in his life, he's going to be able to get on the internet And we just opened a whole world up for him. And that's what Violet's done in London. So that's amazing. That's what happened the last month or so.
Yeah, and it all started with a cup holder device.
Yep.
And just to make sure everybody knows, Netclay is another Tetra initiative that if you had trouble using a keyboard in a traditional way, Netclay may be able to help you navigate your computer and have access to your files, things like that. So if you wanted to know, if anybody wants to know more about Tetra, they can contact yourself. And before I forget, what is the best way to contact you, Sylvia?
I would say you can do it in two ways, depending on how you want to do it. You can email me at B as in Bob, ALIKO @tetrasociety.org. So that's my work email. Or you can also call me on the phone at 289-208-2315. And also through the website. You can go onto the website, and if you go on there, you'll see different chapters. You can contact head office. You can call the 1-800 number. There's many ways to get a hold of us.
And if you were to fill out a request, we had talked about RFAs earlier. If somebody fills out a request online and they're anywhere in Ontario or even in Montreal, it goes to you. So this trusting face that you're seeing here right now, she will look at your request, and I'm telling you, she will not quit until she helps you find some type of solution or does what she can. So that's another thing. If somebody fills out a request and they're in the Ontario region or the central region of Canada, you look over the request yourself and try to help that connection happen.
Correct.
And that is a wonderful story. And the Hamilton chapter as well, we had Tetra Nation earlier this year, and they won one of the most innovative projects. They designed an easier way for people to get with disabilities to get in and out of a kayak and be able to get on the water independently. So great things are happening in Hamilton, all throughout Hamilton, Windsor, all throughout the region. And a couple of other chapters I, of course, wanted to mention is lots of things are happening in Ottawa as well. And we even have university student groups. So, and we have a coordinator there, Zara. Talk a little, because I know you have worked with her and attended her meetings, and talk about some of the great things that are happening in some of the other chapters like Ottawa.
Well, Zara joined us be almost a year ago now, so she had to get baptized pretty quick because it's a big group. They have over 30 volunteers, and she likes to know about each project that is going on there. They've done some really cool stuff. The latest one that came out was a soccer bumper, not a traditional wheelchair soccer bumper, because if you just attach that to the front of a wheelchair, you hit the ball and it goes in any direction. This soccer bumper takes the ball in, and then the person can change direction and aim at something and then fire it, shoot it from their electric wheelchair. So I think that's a really cool project, and I think they may be making more of those for soccer teams.
To be honest with you, I'm a power chair user, and people have asked me if I want to join the teams, and it's pretty competitive. They get right in there and start smashing each other. So I'm one of those. I always say, look, I'll support you, and I'm happy to watch on the sidelines. I know the bumper protects, but that they are a competitive group, and it's definitely a game that's played internationally and certainly throughout Canada. So that's great. And then, of course, as someone might imagine, we do have chapter coordinators in Toronto, and you already mentioned Peel, the coordinator, getting a new computer. So just talk a little bit about the Peel region and the Toronto area.
Sure. Scott Capper is the coordinator in Peel. I saw him the other day. They're actually working on a really neat project. A child has an electric car, and they're modifying it for the child so that he can use it on his own. So that's really cool for people to know that we can modify toys. We can also modify musical instruments. Anything you can think of is what we really do. In Toronto, in the last week, he's received 3 new volunteers. He's very excited. One person's joining them with a 3D printer. So we can make all kinds of projects there. Wayne Smith is very good. He also has university clubs as well, and they're working on some so that she can do things with her arm. And like I said, these projects are one of a kind. You will not find them anywhere commercially. So if you want something like that, just contact Tetra. We will do our best to get it done.
Right, and you can do that through the website at www.tetrasociety.org, and you can go to our chapter page. So just to recap, it's Wayne Smith in Metro Toronto,
Correct.
Scott Capper in Peel, Zara Mohammed in Ottawa, and we also have as well, we have a longtime Kingston coordinator,
Nicole Cromwell,
and she has a disability herself. So much like your brother Ron, she can definitely relate to somebody's challenges and has done great things with the Queen's University and students there. And speaking of students, one of our chapter coordinators, our newest chapter coordinator in Guelph, is an engineering student herself, and now is the coordinator for the Guelph region, and has gotten some coverage about Tetra in the electronic newspapers and so on. Talk a little bit about Nicola.
Nicola joined us also last year. She is going to go into biomedical devices and thought this would be a good fit. She also has a cousin that has a disability, so she thought it would be a great experience. And she picked up a couple of volunteers that used to work with the Hamilton chapter, but they live in Elmira, so they're working with her right now. And actually in the last month, she has 3 new volunteers as well, which is fantastic, because we can always use the help. Like I said, they're working on a couple of projects up there now, and she actually contacted Snapped and is doing a monthly series with them explaining about Tetra, what we do, how you can put in a request for assistance, which is very simple. And she's just going through the steps during the whole year to get exposure for herself up there. So it's fabulous.
Great. And we have Randy Kells in York.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
And Randy's been a long-time coordinator, and also has a disability himself. So he definitely is a great guy to talk to, or has a lot of passion to help someone have a device. So just to recap, we have 9 chapters. Now, one of the ones that I wanted to end on, which brings us full circle back to the family connection and our newest coordinator, who signed up at the start of this year because you are so busy with the regional coordinators and overseeing the region, and you talk about all these great things that have happened in less than a year, all the new volunteers, projects. So your sister is now the coordinator for the Hamilton chapter.
Correct.
So you've kept it in the family. The Hamilton chapter, you, of course, they're part of your region, so you still touch base. And you have Ron in Hamilton, your brother, is the project manager. You have your mom, who helps with the chapter promotion in Hamilton, Halton. Your dad, who's making devices in his workshop. And then the day-to-day coordinator is your sister, who I know is camera shy, but I'll just get you to kind of introduce her to people who may not know that she is the coordinator for Hamilton.
Yeah, Nancy is the younger sister, and of course she's been around Ron's disability as long as we have, and has great passion for people with disabilities. And I had asked her if she would like to take it over, and she agreed to. She is camera shy, very camera shy, but she is still doing all the work. She does ask me questions every once in a while because it is a new role for her. So we have been coaching her on this end here, but she's doing a great job. I think the chapter has already done close to 20 projects this year already, even during the pandemic. And that's something I want people to know as well. Tetra is still open, even during this COVID-19. Some projects have had to be put on hold because we have to get too close to the clients. But many projects are being handled through Zoom, phone calls, emails, other people doing measurements like their family members or someone who lives in the house, or a PSW, a peer support worker. So all these projects are carrying on because they're done in mainly the family, or the client will come and pick it up from their driveway, or the volunteer will drop it off on their porch or driveway. So there is no contact with the clients. But yeah, Nancy stepped in and she's keeping up. The chapter is not slipping in any way, and having Ron there on the other side as a project manager is also helping her. So the Hamilton chapter, we serve from Oakville right through to Niagara, even Fort Erie. We've done projects, is carrying on, no step missed.
And I know you are even more busy during this time. Lots of emails, lots of things online. Look for our Gizmo newsletter that's going to be coming out. We just got that put together, which talks about all of our chapters throughout Canada. And you, of course, as you already mentioned, for those who want, are helping put together PPE packages. And so hopefully your passion, Sylvia, for Tetra, for helping others, your family's passion shines through. And I just want to thank you. And as you heard today, when you contact Sylvia, you have a wealth of experience. And she's also helped out on projects. That's the last thing I wanted to touch on. If somebody's listening and wanting to get involved, you don't need to be a mechanical engineer or have your own shop. You have helped the family over a number of years just by sewing and adapting clothing. So if you have a special skill, even if it's being a guest speaker or being able to tell a story, you could help Tetra. And I know you've made a real impact modifying some pajamas with your sewing skills. So with Tetra, help comes in many ways.
Definitely.
Well, it's been absolutely great to touch base. I'll just get you to give your contact info one more time, and I do just want to recap that we have 9 chapters throughout Ontario, and of course we're always looking to expand. So who knows, hopefully at some point we'll also have a chapter coordinator up and running in Montreal. One thing I can tell you about Sylvia, she's always looking for the next great thing and the next person to help. And again, they can contact you.
Definitely. You can call me at 289-208-2315, or you can email me at S for Sylvia, B as in Bob, ALIKO @tetrasociety.org, and we will respond as soon as we can.
And again, I'm Eric Molendyk, the National Coordinator for Tetra. We thank you for joining us here as part of ConnecTogether and on Facebook. And I want to again say a huge thank you to all of our volunteers and all of our chapter coordinators, the 9 of them throughout your region. And I know you're going to do this anyway, but I'll say it, keep up the great work. It's great working with you. And I wish you the very best this weekend.
Thanks, Eric. Well, we couldn't do it without you guys either.